Hey Clark, how are you
How you doing,
doing?
Nathan?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, I'm working on the SQL exercises, which have been pretty challenging. Definitely, you know, the first thing I guess is just like the design of the how the tables are going to work together is kind of tricky, um, especially when you're just super new to it. I think it's something after some repetition will make a little more sense, and then kind of figuring out how the code works. Was running into some errors, figuring some things out. Um, um, yeah, I guess seems like I figured out if you're just going to reference a key directly from another table, like the serial primary key, then it is pretty straightforward. The issue I was running into is I was like referencing a referenced key. And then in that case, I guess I was talking to the TAs, I have to make it unique. But then they were like, well, you can really just rewrite this in a different way. A little bit, I think, of understanding the questions. Sometimes, like, okay, what exactly are they wanting me to create? Because I had, like, on the Craigslist problem, I was having some. I didn't quite understand, like, how preferred region and region like were different, or like I understood that like when I'm using the application how it works, but in this scenario I was like, what are they really asking? But I'm making some progress there. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else I've been working on. That's been the main thing, I guess, is sorry, definitely like a lot of it's watching the videos and then going to the exercise and then being like, how do I do that again? Going back to the videos. So, yeah.
Good, good. I mean, SQL, it's one of those things. It's without diagrams, it's really abstract. So my recommendation is actually checking out this thing called the UML diagram. I believe it stands for Unified Modeling Language, but basically it gives you more of a visualization as to how each table relates to one another rather than just trying to see database from a text points of view, which I found can be quite challenging for beginners.
Yeah,
So
totally.
I would recommend definitely try to visualize what the model's relationship first before you jump into the select create table of things. Otherwise, it's like, what is going on here? Like
It is. It's like it really like your brain just kind of is like, this is just a little beyond me. Seems. Well, it's good to hear that that's a common thing. So when you're saying this UML, I'm unclear on what exactly that is.
right. So if you Google search UML diagram, and if you click on the
Okay, yeah.
yeah, and if you click on the images, it's basically if you just select one of those, let's say customer has a relationship to products or a relationship to um, whatever the other relationship. It's because it can be either one to many or many to many relationships. So I found, at least for me in the beginning, is to visualize how the model's relationships are to one another this way. It helps a lot.
Okay, yeah. I kind of wrote out some things like on paper that were sort of helpful, but um, the arrows were kind of tricky too because I was, it seems like okay, the arrow it's like going the idea if you're going one to many. So if you're going, yeah, I guess the idea of many to many is still like that kind of thing. So
Yeah, with the relationships, you want to try to put in real world scenarios. So, say, for example, let's take vehicles. I guess a vehicle company. I'm trying to think of a real world example
Well,
here.
I mean, like we could use. I mean, I just did this. I just did this Craigslist one, and kind of with that one, I actually drew out a diagram, and then I realized, like, when I started writing the code, that okay, this region actually has to be its own thing, and the categories has to be its own thing. So the diagram sort of helped, but I didn't quite understand it still, And then when I started writing out the code, I was like, oh, okay. So, but yeah, trying to figure out like the directions the arrows goes is kind of tricky too. So I guess I need to study up on that a little bit more. And I guess for this exercise I'm working on, they want you to write out diagrams for each of them, and submit them. So I'm gonna do that.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah,
One quick example I can think of is like, so one client can order multiple products. So that's one-to-many relationship.
Okay.
And then many-to-many relationship would be, I'm trying to think of a many-to-many.
Would it be many doctors can see many patients?
That works. Yes. Yeah. Many specialists. Yeah.
So I did this like it was a medical center. So I mean, just want to look at my code real quick. Here, actually, should I just share my screen with you?
Maybe sure. Yeah, usually if you try to plug in like a real world scenarios, they make sense.
Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so this seemed to work. I was like looking at the solution; they had a couple more, but most of the things they were adding on were not the important relationships. It was just like extra data. So it's like, but yeah, I mean, so the way I was kind of looking at this is you basically have these three tables, which each have, this is kind of like the movies and the roles, right? These are the groups of the list of doctors, the list of patients, the list of diseases, and then you have this table that's kind of just referencing each one of them as a number, right? As an integer. But yeah, like drawing this out, I wasn't quite sure where to put the lines. I mean, I understand where the IDs are, like how basically the three tables are up top, and then there should be like, I guess, would it be a many to many for each, from each of these tables, like from here to here, from here to here, because in this case there's many doctors, many patients, many diseases, and like one of my examples here was like, okay, I want to make sure both doctors can see one patient and one doctor can see many patients. So those would all be many-to-many relationships, and also there can be more than one disease, right?
That makes sense, yeah. They do have many-to-many relationships in that case.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, this one I think I got right. I mean, it seems to be working, and then this is the Craigslist one I just was figuring out, and that seems actually to be working now. I was just having trouble understanding, like this preferred region kind of thing, and because both of these are referencing this, like this is referencing this, and then also this is referencing this. So it doesn't mean they're the same information. It just means they're using the same table, right?
Right.
Because in this case, this is the preferred region that would be entered here, which in this case would be Denver. But in this case, this is the post region, which is entered here. So it's using the regions table as like a list of regions to choose from and simplifying that, but it doesn't mean that they're the same piece of information.
Right.
Yeah. It's it's like the kind of thing, like once you get it, it doesn't seem that confusing, but it's just hard to like quantify in the moment. You're like, At first I was like, wait, so I created these relationships, but now I need to, it's almost like now I need to input the information with these relationships. Yeah, it's kind of hard to understand, but I think I'm making some progress. It's just taking some time.
Yeah, I would still recommend to like draw the diagrams out to visualize.
Yeah, no, I have those as well, but they're just not as organized. Like I'm working on the Teams one right now, and it just gets confusing when there's multiple lines going in different directions, I guess.
For sure. Yeah, I would say database is one of those like abstract area where once you get a hang of like visualizing.
Sorry, I just accidentally hit the end call button.
No worries. I was saying that database is one of those areas. It's kind of abstract, but once you get a hang of it, and you can kind of visualize how models work in relationship with one another, then it gets easier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, what were you looking to cover today?
Right. So we still need to go over your Hacker News projects.
Yes.
Yeah. So congrats, you passed the assignments.
Yeah.
I just need to talk about a few improvements.
And I just have a question. So if you don't pass the assignment, what happens?
It just means that you need to go back to work on the part that you failed, because every time when I mark the assignments, there are marking criteria I was given. So if you meet those criteria, I would pass the assignments, and then the rest that I go over with you is just improvements to make it better. So if you don't pass, that just means that you fail those passing criteria, and you just need to go back and fix them.
Okay. Yeah. I understand.
Yeah.
All right. Should I bring the code up, or do you want to share your screen with me?
Yeah, if you can also bring up the projects, and then we can just talk about.
Should I share my screen?
No, we can just talk normally.
We can just talk about it.
Yeah,
okay, cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just gonna bring up the projects.
Yes.
That file, when you work for a company, do not commit that file. That Git file, it's for your private use. Me. Yeah. Type .git.
Just like that?
Yeah.
Okay. So this will do it, and this will mean that when I commit it, it will be excluded automatically.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
But you also want to watch out to not commit the .gitignore file.
Okay, but shouldn't the .gitignore file not be able to be committed because it's a .gitignore file?
I know that is the thing, because Git is not that smart. So when you type down Git status, it's going to show up that file when you like if you go to your terminal and you type down Git status, that file it's going to show up.
The gitignore file will show up.
Exactly, and that file is going to get committed.
Okay.
Right. So the solution to that is that you need to individually, you have to cherry pick the files.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I've just been being a little lazy because I thought it would work just by git add period, and then so you're saying I go git add, type each file individually.
Yes.
Is there a quicker way to do it?
Well, a quicker way, I would say, you can just append. So once you type git add, and then you can just one line you can type down the name of the files, all the files in one line that you want to commit.
Yeah, I'm like, can you give me an example or?
Sure. So you can do something like I will just type inside the chat. So you
Yeah,
can
that'd be
do
great.
something like. So in that one line, it's going to commit. It's going to add that
2
to
files.
exactly, yeah. So you can do everything in one line.
Okay, so just git add the name of the file space name of the next file space name of the next file. Okay.
Yes, it's sort of important because when you work in a company and you keep on committing your own git ignore file, the other developers they are gonna get annoyed.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, what else?
What else? Let me take a look on a sec. If we go to so if you go to UI.JavaScript file, UI.js,
Yeah.
and you look at line number 102, then that's where you're listening to the click events on the body.
Uh-huh.
I just want to say the really good use with the second parameter where you are looking for the ID for navigation all. That's a really good use.
So that's the event delegation, right?
Yes, that's because even in like of all the ex coworkers I work with, not many people know to use that second parameters. So that's like a really good usage that you have there.
Well, I wasn't using that, and then I was having trouble because it's a one-page application. I was having trouble getting it to refresh, or like basically, how am I going to add an event listener to something that doesn't exist yet, right? And then they're like, oh, you're missing the idea of event delegation. So then I was like, oh, you're right. I forgot about event delegation. So I almost feel like you need to use event delegation in this project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a good usage.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the next notes here. Give me one sec. Even the targets. If we look at line number 156, right? So you are listening to a click events on the class articles container.
Okay, yeah, I'm just going up. Add event listener to articles container. When clicked, add event listener to all elements with the class of favorite. Okay.
Give me one. I'm taking a look at your screen. I think it's line. Yeah. So 138. Sorry.
Oh, the trash can.
Yes.
Add event listener to delete button. I'm just trying to remember. This is so many weeks ago, right? So when there's a click on the trash can class, delete the post.
Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with listening on that click. It's the thing is when you want to manipulate or listen to something, it's better to reference it by the identifier rather than the class.
So this is the same issue you were talking about last week with the Jeopardy game, where it's the same thing. I'm using like a CSS class basically, or like a class as opposed to an ID where it's one thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I said, I didn't get any code reviews from my last mentor, so there's going to be recurring issues like that, and I definitely can go back and change all these, but I just haven't really had time because
Don't worry. I just thought maybe you forgot to do it.
No, well, because same kind of thing. Like I thought, especially with the way query selectors and all that were talked about, is you could use any of them. But I guess what you're saying is the best practices, you should really be using IDs for specific things. Like there's only one trash can, or no, but in this case, isn't there going to be a trash can on each post?
Yes, but the problem is that if you were to use articles container the class, like if you were to listen on the click event on the class, imagine if there's multiple other elements that are also using the article containers class. Like it's not, how to say that, there's duplicates. Like it's not unique, and it violates the JavaScript best practices.
So I guess I'm a little unclear because are you talking about articles container should be an ID or
Yes,
trash can should be an ID?
The articles container should be an ID.
Okay, because trash can has to be a class because it's being used. There's actually, isn't there one of these on each? This is basically a delete button on each post, right? So there's multiple of these, so this cannot be an ID. But this articles container, there's only one of them, so it should be an ID.
Yeah, but I mean, like you have to think in terms of, like, say if you have, I know in this case there's only one, but you need to think about what if there's like multiple other elements that are using articles container as a class, and you want to reference it all by the same class name. Like it's really difficult for, like, the JavaScript behavior is that if you have multiple same class name and you try to fetch them, it's going to fetch the latest found, which means like if you have three elements that are
okay.
Yeah.
So in this case, you're talking about the jQuery selector right here,
Yes.
Which is saying go find the class of articles container. And you're saying in this case there's only one, but this should be an ID.
Exactly.
That makes sense. But the trash can needs to be a class, right? Because there's more than one.
Yes.
Okay, cool. That was my question. It makes complete sense, and it's the same issue I was having last time. And I guess I just didn't realize the strictness of that. And because the code works, I was like, great, it's working. But I do understand it's a specificity and kind of it's a best practice that you're talking about once again.
Exactly. Okay, cool. And then I think there's only one more thing I would like to talk about. If you look at line number, like the line numbers I have is a bit different because I put down a notes here and there, so please forgive me on that. If you look at line number 293, I think it's inside your is favorite function.
Okay. Looking for that 293. Because you're saying it's a little different on yours. I see generate favorites. Is that it? 306?
The function is favorites.
No, it's weird. I'm not actually seeing that down there. Is favorite. I think, isn't this, this is in the UI, right? Okay, is favorite. Is favorite, I have his favorite at 261.
Okay, yes, yeah, so his favorite. So if we look at line number 262 on your screen, I just want to say good usage with the set. There is a convenient function has. That's a really good way to do this.
Yeah, I did kind of take that from the solution, but
okay.
I can't really claim too much credit there, but it did seem to be like, oh, that's a good way to handle that.
Yeah. So. Yeah, so like if you ever come across anything similar to this, keep using this. This is a very good code.
Yeah, this was a little tricky. This was a while back, so I'm trying to remember it all, but yeah. Now, this would be a case, once again, where let would be a better for fave stories because that's changing every time, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's another thing we talked about. I mean, those are kind of two of the big best practices we've talked about in the last couple calls. So I just wanted reviewing that. Okay.
And then one last thing is the formatting for the text. I notice is like there's like some lines they are like I don't know like 4 tabs, but in some lines they are not. It's like was there something going on with copy and paste?
Sorry, what are you referring to?
Like for the formatting for the lines, you know how like certain lines they are very how to say that properly formatted, but some
Oh, and then
lines are
some of
not.
them. So you know what I think it was, and I think I installed a second formatting program, and I think what it did is it disabled the other one.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense.
Because it was exactly that. Like, well, and I'm wondering, should these programs format on save or automatically, or is once you start cutting and pasting, it doesn't format it again? Like you have to format when you cut and paste, but when you're composing the code, it does it correctly.
Right.
Is that true?
Well, it depends on the programs that you install.
Yeah.
So like even inside a text editor, you can manually set it up so that you would automatically reformat the text on save or right after you press enters or something like that. So
Yeah.
you really have to look at the program's manual.
Yeah, I'm using Prettier.
Prettier, okay.
But yeah, I was having this issue because that was one thing that the code review pointed out is like, that you're talking about indentation basically.
Yes, yeah.
Right? The indentation's kind of like sometimes it's correct and then sometimes it's wrong. I think it had a lot to do with cutting and pasting, but I also think I don't know. There's okay. So here, can I just share my screen with you real quick?
Sure.
Okay, so I think what you're talking about. Let's see. Does it have to do the thing again? Or can you see my screen?
I can see you, but not your screen.
Okay, start sharing. Okay, there you go. So you're saying like, for example, if I just like do that and then I save, it's actually putting it back now, but before it wasn't.
Okay.
Right? Okay, cool. So it seems like it's auto formatting on save.
All right.
Now. So I did figure that out after the code review because I was like, man, it was getting really tricky. I was having a lot of issues with do I have enough parentheses, and I think it had a lot to do with that the formatting wasn't auto formatting, and I couldn't figure out why.
Yeah.
And as soon as I uninstalled the other program, they were just like not working together.
Okay. All right, man. So our times is up. Just one last question. What are you gonna be working on for the coming week?
I'm trying to get through the SQL stuff, which has been pretty challenging. It's definitely taking a lot longer than the expected time. But I think the goal is to get through that, and then I'm just following the study guide. So I've just been trying to get what the 9-month study guide is doing each week.
Cool, sounds good. So for next week, I actually just mark your Forex assignments, and that one passed too. But we still got a few things to go over for next week. So
okay,
yeah.
I will say that I did try to check the version of Python from within the virtual environment, and it did come up as 3.85. So I'm not quite sure why my installation was not working in the virtual environment like I was talking about last week. Okay. So we could go over that next week, I guess.
Sounds good.
All right, thanks. Have a good week.
Yeah, you too. Bye.